Yo, welcome back. What's good, everybody, to another episode of the Smitty and Eddie show. I am Smitty, your host from the other side of the pond, aka Australia, and I'm joined, of course, by my co-host Eddie Presti, aka NBA Cap Wiz, from the United States of America. What's going on, Eddie? Man, how you been?
Started, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Look, man, it's been a big week in the NBA as always. This this league never ceases to amaze, man. But look, I hope everyone's doing well. I hope all our fans are doing well, and we appreciate you guys coming in. Salute to you, Pudge and Ice, and to everyone else that has showed up. Obviously, we're overlapping right now with a few NBA games, namely our New York Knicks. But hey, look, whoever showed up, we do appreciate it. And look, let's just jump straight into things, man. We're going to give you a wrap, of course, around the league like we normally do. And Eddie's got something here he wants to talk about, man. We're going to talk about the race in the West, man. Things are pretty tight in the West there, Eddie. Why don't you, give us a bit of a spill about that, how you think that's looking? Because I'm looking at these standings that are on the screen right now, and wow.
Bro, the West is absolutely insane. I mean, a week ago, we were talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and maybe the possibility of them, winning it. At least I was. And fast forward to a week later, we have, another injury now. KD goes down. We have news. We have updated news on Zion Williamson, and he went down. And we have, another injury now with Luka going down. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that shortly after this, but I mean, just looking at the standings, right, Eddie? Things are pretty close as it is. Less injuries, even if we leave those out of it. Look at how close things are right there. I mean, you go all the way down to 13th, and there's only 3 games between 13th and 7th. So, I mean, it's wild.
It really is. I mean, another thing I'm going to say is, Denver, I think now has become the clear favorite out of the West. They've been the most consistent team. They're showing up. You know that pretty much it's Denver and everybody else right now. I think that's for sure that we know that Denver is the team to beat, at least in my assessment of it. But the West, the race is absolutely insane, bro. It's insane. You look at Sacramento; they're the 2 seed now. We got Memphis; they're 3. Well, we'll see what happens at the end of the night. That could change. Phoenix is the 4 seed. And then after that, it's just chaos, bro. It's total chaos. You got Golden State at 5 right now. Clippers 6. They're 2 games over 500 each. Well, that'll change too. And then we got 7. We got Minnesota, Dallas at 8. They're also, a game over 500 each. And then we got LA and New Orleans, bro. I mean, that's how it's looking. So it's a tight race. Below that, you have OKC, Portland, and Jazz. I don't think any of those teams are going to make it, me personally. But, I want to know what you got out of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, Eddie, the things I'm looking at is, the teams like Oklahoma City being up there. That's obviously surprising. A lot of people didn't think they would push this hard. But as I always say, it doesn't matter, I mean, admittedly, you could say by their roster they're tanking or they're actively tanking or whatever. But, I mean, they've got no one else to play, so there is that aspect. Plus, you can't take – one thing you can't do and you can't put on the bench is, these players drive and want to win and competitive. You just can't put competitiveness on the bench. Do you know what I mean? You put guys out there. These guys are NBA basketball players, no matter which way you slice it. So it's interesting to see a team like the Thunder up there. And obviously the Pelicans, they have struggled, of course, granted because of some injuries to both Ingram and Zion. We will get into that a little after this. But look, man, Mavs are starting to drown. Warriors have come back up the standings. Clippers starting to maybe find a groove now. The Nuggets, so the only thing that I'm concerned about is they dropped that game to the Bulls yesterday, the very lowly Chicago Bulls. So I mean, don't get me wrong, they're head and shoulders above the rest in terms of the Western Conference, right? I mean, even the Kings, they've got 8 games on them. But I mean, the way I'm looking at it, Eddie, is that the Nuggets are still very beatable, and that's a question I've always sort of raised and a question mark I've always put next to them. So I don't know, Eddie. I think we're going to see a really, really fun race to the end of the season to try and make play-in and playoff seeding spots, which is really interesting because it always is nice when you've got teams that are straight up fighting it out to make that thing when it's truly possible. Because I mean, even the Thunder with a few good games under their belt could get it done. And so salute to Jigger, our guy Jigger Man, and of course Hector Project Nerd, our guy. Salute to you guys, man. Appreciate you guys showing up again, KOD Media family. But yeah, Eddie, I mean, look, man, even the Timberwolves, I'm liking the way that they've turned things around a little bit with the addition of Conley and such. So I like the race in the West at the minute.
Hey, listen, man, I went over, strength of schedules and all that stuff. So, you can take it for what it's worth. I don't know if you believe in that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, it always looks good on paper. Okay, we're going to play this team, that team. But as you alluded to before, this is the NBA where players show up. This is a players' league, and these guys are going to play. So, I just went over a couple of the, strength of schedule. Something that jumped out on me, I'm looking at right here. Lakers, second easiest schedule in the West. Okay, then we got Memphis. They have the third easiest schedule going forward. And then we got New Orleans has the fourth easiest, and OKC has the fifth. Dallas has the sixth. Now, two teams that stuck out also, where we had Sacramento has the third hardest schedule, and Phoenix has the second hardest schedule moving forward. So, that stuff that might play in, to how it all shakes. I don't know. I think for the Lakers that's a good thing because we watched, you watched AD ball out the last few nights. I mean, the coach called him, wilt. I mean, that's pretty crazy. You know what I'm saying? Darvin Ham went out there and called him wilt. Davis. It's pretty crazy. So we'll see what happens.
I don't know about that one, Eddie. That's a bit of
a stretch. Yeah, of course.
So, yeah. But look, good on Darvin Ham for getting
you got to admit
and such. He's showing support for guys like AD. And look, I mean, who knows? There might be to all of our demise. There might be a LeBron James fairy tale brewing. Who knows? I never rule it out, unfortunately, as much as it would pain me to see. But anyway, Eddie, look, I mean, that's the West right now. It's wide open. I think there's some teams that are drowning. I think there's some teams that are excelling. So I'm interested to see, man, what happens with these teams now. And then, like I said, it's just going to be an absolute fun pointy end of the year to watch. I mean, we've got on average about 16 games left or something.
16, 17.
Yeah, thereabouts. So, it is what it is, man. It looks good in the West. So we'll see.
So Smitty, if I got to put a gun to your head, bro, who are you picking? Who are you picking out of the West, man? How about this? We'll make it easy. 2 teams. You could pick 2 teams. Go ahead, bro.
Look, that's a great question. Okay, 2 teams I'm looking at. Definitely going to be. I'm gonna say the Suns. The Suns for sure. Even with the Kevin Durant going down yesterday, and I'll say, look, I'm going to give the Nuggets the benefit of the doubt, but I'll give a notable mention to the Warriors.
That was good. Listen, if I had to pick 2, I'm going to go with. First off, I'm not taking the Suns, man. I'm not taking the Suns. Durant's injured again. The team has not played together, so there's no way I'm picking them. Now that he's out for 3 weeks, there's no chance in hell I'm picking the Suns. So I'm going to go Denver just out of consistency. And again, to be the champs, you got to beat the champs. I know Golden State's been so inconsistent, but the playoffs are a different animal, and I think Golden State's going to show up in the playoffs. So I'm going Denver and Golden State. Those are my 2 teams coming out of the West. I'm not touching the Suns. I'm not touching them. They got to prove to me they could stay healthy. They have to.
Yeah, no doubt. I could see that, man. I think that's a fair enough. That's a fair enough sort of assessment on that, man. I hard to disagree with that one. But hey, Eddie, man, look, that's the West. So, let's jump into the next thing now, man. I mean, and this sort of, it really does concern the West because all these players we're about to talk about, and let's talk about injuries, man. Roll the tape on this Kevin Durant injury. We saw yesterday in warm-ups, man. He slips on the court here. You'll see him as he goes to the basket. He slips, and that's a pretty nasty turn. That's a full turn, man. We'll play that once more for you there, just so you guys can see it. Watch that left ankle, guys. He really does turn that one dramatically. Now they're calling that a serious sprain. There was some word yesterday early that he might be out for the rest of the regular season, which is unfortunate. And that was before his debut in Phoenix, Eddie. Right? He hadn't played a game in Phoenix yet for the Suns since his arrival. So very interesting to see. They've now said and come out and said it's a minimum 2 weeks before they, you know, before they. And as Project Nerd said, never want to wish injuries on anyone. Of course not. That's the worst thing. These guys are stars. We want to see them play, but 2 weeks now they're talking about Eddie till they reassess him. So he's going to miss at least the next,
I thought it was 3 weeks.
No, they said 2. That was my latest. I could be wrong, but let's say a minimum, be generous, a minimum 2 weeks. So there's what, 6 to 8 games in that span, you would think, thereabouts. So you're right,
listen,
man.
With KD's injury history, man, I don't see him. I'm going to go on the longer side with this because they're going to have to play it safe. I mean, he's going, they want to be a healthy team going into the playoffs. I don't understand what, listen, injuries, that's a freak injury, right? You slip on the court. We don't know if it was wet. It's a freak injury. But, Phoenix basically, basically gave their entire future. They gave their soul to get Kevin Durant. Let's be honest. Let's call it like it is. They gave up their soul to get Kevin Durant. And now he was supposed to, he was originally injured with the Nets when they acquired him. And now he's out again, bro. So, this is becoming a problem because as good as Phoenix is, they are not, at least in my assessment, I don't think they're a championship level team without Kevin Durant. Now, I love Devin Booker. I think he's a superstar. I love Chris Paul. He's obviously on the decline. You like what you see at an 8, and he's a, good center. They got some pieces back on the bench with Ross and these guys. So they're a good team, but are they a championship team? And can they figure this thing out in the playoffs? If this injury lingers, from now until April, they're going to have to figure this out and become a unit and gel in the playoffs. And that's a pretty hard ask, Smitty. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it is. And look, man, I wish all the best to KD, regardless of what I think of the moves that he's made as a player. But man, it's like you said, it's a freak injury. But it seems like these injuries keep happening now. I mean, he had a pretty good run for someone that did his Achilles, and he's still very dominant, very, very dominant. Actually, he's almost better than some of his pre-injury.
But let's be honest, though, Smitty, he's never got back. Ever since he tore that Achilles, he's never got. I mean, I know he's, like you said, he's a better player, but he's not. He hasn't put it together on the court, man. I mean, he
always seems to. He's starting to pile up the injuries now. Really pile up the injuries. The I think it was the hamstring most recently, or something like that, and then now obviously this. Plus a few other niggles here and there over time since returning from that Achilles in his time in Brooklyn. And as Project Nerd said, a guy Hector, I saw people claiming to be Nets fans happy he got hurt. These are people that are now soured because of it. Unfortunately, as much as I disagree with that, it's terrible. People shouldn't say that. They're so sour from it that they're now wishing and happy that he's hurt. So that's kind of sad too. But he's piling them up. Eddie, this team as well. Chris Paul always manages to get injured. Devin Booker spent a bit of time out this year. I mean, look, we'll show it again for you guys. It's just look at that. It's just an unfortunate freak accident. But we've also got other injuries, right? We've got Zion Williamson, who's now he re-aggravated that hamstring injury before the All-Star break. Salute to Sunil. Then we got closer to the All-Star break, and they said he's definitely going to miss it. He's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, and now they're saying it could be a lot worse than originally thought.
Yeah.
So it's panic stations over there in Pelican Land, because remember, before he got hurt, they were up near at the top of the West for a moment, and that was without Brandon Ingram, because they've had injuries with Ingram out as well, which has just been, they've just had a really rough run at it. Neither of those guys can either of those guys can get healthy. So, and then of course yesterday Luka goes down with an apparent quad thigh injury. So we're waiting to hear more about that. I'm assuming scans and info could be coming soon. I could be wrong. I just haven't seen an update about it myself. So he only played 17 minutes or something, or 27 minutes yesterday. Salute to Phil, man. Shout out to you guys. We got Eddie. If you guys didn't notice, he's got the he's dressed to impress. with his Clyde swag. For those who don't know, we're talking about Clyde Walt Frazier, Knicks legend. But yeah, man, Eddie, the West. This goes back to what we were speaking about before. The West is wide open more now, especially if Luka Doncic is going to see some, a week or two on the sidelines. That puts them behind a little bit, and they're already dropped down to 8th, as we could see. And then you've got Phoenix, who, while KD had come back, they'd done better again, and now they were sort of at full strength. I'm also hearing today that Steven Adams has gone down. I just heard that before we jumped on air. Steven Adams has gone down, and believably it could be,
How long is he out now?
Oh, they're talking about possibly the rest of the season.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, and we're still waiting to obviously hear back about the Ja Morant thing. So the West is definitely this is why this was a perfect segment to talk about after what we opened with, Eddie, because this just opens the gate and kicks it wide open in the West.
I hate to say it, but if LeBron comes back, the Lakers might have a chance. I hate to say that, but if he comes back healthy, and these teams are dropping like flies, these guys are dropping like flies, the Lakers might actually have a chance to win the West. I don't want to say that. I don't like the Lakers. I can't stand them, but if they come healthy, maybe they get it together, and who knows, maybe they make a run. We don't know. It's so crazy. And the fact that, like you said, Zion's out. They were, Ingram was out for a while. That team, I mean, talk about a fall from grace. They were once, what were they, like the 4th or 5th seed, New Orleans, and now they're just, I think they won.
In December, They were on top. Yeah.
And I think, what have they won, like 3 or 4 games in the new year, something like that? Something like crazy.
And they went on a win streak of like 9 or 10 games, right? In December or something like that as well. So.
And then after that, pretty much after the new year, after Zion, the Zion news, it's all been downhill. And I read a stat on Zion. Dude averages 28 and a half games a year, bro. 28 and a half games a year. Oh, my God.
I know.
I mean, talk about street clothes, man. That's pretty bad, bro. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then we had the Luka situation. I watched Luka play last night. You could see he was struggling. He was not moving laterally. He was slow going up and down the court. So you could see he was hurt. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, Kyrie looked good last night. He looked good. He's, got a pep in his step and everything. But, Dallas is crazy because, they're another team that's putting this together on the fly. They traded for Kyrie. They're going to put this together. I read a stat on Tim Hardaway. I think he's shooting like, since the All-Star break, he's shooting like 60% from 3. Some crazy number. Like, I was like, Tim Hardaway, man, really? And yeah, that's I looked at that, and that's crazy. So if they can keep that up, maybe they can make a run too. Dallas is another team that's dangerous, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Kyrie and the Luka pairing, man. Not at all.
And why is that?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Neither of them are a spot up shooter. It's I just don't see them working together. They're both too ball dominant, but we won't go into that too much now. It's just not a great pairing, and I think we've sort of seen that they haven't done much together so far. I think they've amassed 2 or 3 wins, so we will see. But hey, look, let's go to something else now that's pretty new and happened yesterday. And we're going to roll the tape in a second. Don't do it right now, producer. 1 second. I'm just going to lead you into it. There is a explicit language warning on this one. It's about Fred VanVleet talking about the refs, and he's also since come out and apologized. I think it's a bit of damage control. He said the emotion got the better of him. But hey, I'm going to just jump straight into it here and roll the tape, guys. For those of you who didn't see it, this is Fred VanVleet on the refereeing situation yesterday.
Fine, I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible tonight. I thought that on most nights, a couple of out of the 3, there's 1 or 2 that just fucked the game up. And it's been like that a couple games in a row. Denver was tough, obviously. You come out tonight, you're competing pretty hard. The third quarter, I get a bullshit tech, changes the whole dynamic of the game, changes the whole flow of the game. And, most of the refs are trying hard. I like a lot of the refs are trying hard. They're pretty fair. They communicate well. And then you got the other ones who just want to be dicks, and it just kind of fucks the game up. Nobody's coming to see that shit. They come to see the players. And I think we're losing a little bit of the fabric of what the NBA is and was. And it's been disappointing this season. You could look up, most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So at a certain point as a player, you feel it's personal. And it's never a good place to be. That's not why we lost tonight. We got outplayed. But but it definitely makes it tougher.
There we go, Eddie. That's Fred VanVleet yesterday after another loss to the Clippers, right? I believe. Don't quote me. I'm like drawing a blank on that. I'm pretty sure that was it. Give me your thoughts on that, Eddie. What you think of that? Just your first thoughts.
Listen,
Shout out, Jess.
It's wild. It's wild to hear a player so blunt and actually singling out the referee by the name, and then saying on top of that, the dude fucked up the game, bro. That's some wild stuff, man. And listen, I got to tip my hat to Fred VanVleet. I mean, he's got a pair, man. He's got a pair of balls to come out and say that. He's got a pair of balls to do that and say basically, fuck it, give me the fine. I'll take the fine. This is how bad I think this dude is, and I have a serious problem with the guy. So I tip my hat to VanVleet. Listen, you got to have a pair of balls to do that. And listen, if he really feels that way, and it seems like he really was genuine about it, there's going to be some serious ramifications, bro. There's going to be some serious, because I have never heard a player basically single out a referee by name, after a game. So it was actually pretty cool to see, to be honest.
Look, Eddie, as fans, obviously we have our gripes with the refs, and don't get me wrong, there's been some poor stuff. And my biggest issue with the refs, and it might even relate to sort of what Fred's talking about, and he did actually refer to it in his apology today. I'm not sure if anyone saw his apology, but he sort of said, he'd love to be able to show a bit more emotion, and that's the big thing. I feel players should be able to show a bit more emotion after a call, and especially if they're not directing it towards the ref per se, and it's more just an open thought. I don't see why they shouldn't be able to do that. Like, I mean, the refs have to have some sort of a thick skin. Like, I do get they are human, they are going to make mistakes, but it's getting to the point, and we're seeing this in a lot of sports, Eddie. I see this in my football over here in the Australian Football League. It's becoming to the point where it's a little bit ridiculous. You can't critique these guys or give back criticism. And I understand it's a tough job. I'm not saying it's easy. And look, some guys do say stupid shit. Like in the last game, in the Denver game that Fred talks about there, Scotty Barnes went and said something completely stupid and said, and if Scott Foster had given a tech, and he said, man, these guys are cheating. And that's a big call, man, especially Scott Foster recently. I don't know if those of you who know, but Scott Foster is a friend of Tim Donaghy, the guy that was caught up in the scandal. There's a documentary on Netflix about it. There's still questions in the air about whether Scott Foster was in on that. So naturally, that's a sore spot for him, because especially if he is an innocent guy and he wasn't involved in none of that, of course that's going to get under his skin, and you can't that's way too far.
Yeah, that's personal, bro. Yeah, that's getting personal.
Now you're really, when you start saying that they're cheating, you're starting to get to the point where you're questioning their integrity, which is, it's not up for you to do. You let the you do the things after the game to sort of go and track that down or follow up on some of that stuff if you have concerns, and you leave that to the people that handle that. Excuse me. But look, man, my biggest issue with this is the Toronto Raptors are starting to become, how would I say, they're becoming serial complainers, man, over the last few games. Now, Eddie, I know you're smiling. You think, well, you hate the Raptors, but they genuinely
you do. Yeah,
let's be honest. I'll be honest. But I'm looking at this bias, honestly. It needed to realistically be Fred VanVleet, because he swore a lot in that one. And my other thing, Eddie, that I'm noticing is we haven't seen a punishment yet, right? We haven't seen a sanction or a fine handed down. So I'm starting to think, are they really going to come after him hard? Because he not only the excessive use of swearing in a post game, then there's also the personally singling out Ben Taylor and saying that it's always him. And look, there's been some investigation done after it, and Ben Taylor has given him a lot, and maybe there is something there. But also maybe Fred VanVleet's got to realize maybe he's being a bit of an asshole to Ben Taylor, and maybe there's a bit of animosity between them from both sides. So I don't know, Eddie. Fred VanVleet said some things that definitely we all were thinking. That we were definitely all thinking. I mean, where do we go from here? I think there's going to be possibly a suspension out of this one. Yeah. I'm not saying there will. I just would not be surprised with the fact that we haven't seen anything. There we go. Eddie, as always, of course, with the fly jacket on, guys. But hey, man, Eddie. I mean, what else can we say about that? That's probably one of the biggest outrageous outbursts, we've seen from a player about refereeing.
Yeah, dude, that was wild. But I was going to ask you this. You mentioned suspension. I'm going to just ask, what do you think? 5 games, 3 games, 1 game?
No, I would say maybe 1 to 2. I don't think it would be any more than that. But
Big
I
fine?
wouldn't be surprised. Sorry?
Big fine? It's not going to be 20 grand.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mark Cuban got fined $250K for swearing at the refs, just for a reference point.
Yeah. But he's an owner, so it's a different, pay scale.
Look, I know it's a bit different, but as a player, right, realistically, he's probably held to a higher standard. You would think, right? He's a player. He's on the court. They're meant to be, buddy-buddy. They work closely together. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, Eddie. And the biggest telling sign for me is that nothing, at this point, as far as I know, nothing's been handed down yet. So I think the NBA is really looking at how badly they can make an example out of Fred VanVleet here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. Again, it was wild, so we'll see.
Yeah,
Bucks beat the Nets.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. Of course, it's all come in here. We've obviously got our fellow KOD people in here. Morning Brew Sports, Sunil, all the people that come out and support. We love it, man. You guys obviously show up on Morning Brew Sports and all that sort of stuff. And as I said, Sunil has echoed it. Fred VanVleet. That yes, he should have been bleeped for that one because his mouth was quite foul there. Might need to wash it out. If Jess is listening, Miss Gigaporto, the dogs are here. Just so you know, they're annoying me. They're currently at the door, so I know you're probably wondering where they are. But hey, let's move on, Eddie, man. We got a new segment for you guys, and this one's called "We Got the Power." All right, guys, so let me give you a little bit of rundown on this. This one is a new segment we wanted to do, and it's called We Got the Power, right? And so we're going to choose a team, and then we're going to both give our opinion of whether we want to fix that team or maybe power it up. And you're going to hear from both of us on this one. So look, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this, and we're going to be a little bit, loose. So, we're going to start this one out with the Nets. So, firstly is the Brooklyn Nets. Eddie, man, take it away. So obviously, the Brooklyn Nets, they're in dire straits. They've traded out KD. They got some nice pieces in Bridges and Cam Johnson. But new coach this year, all this sort of stuff's happened this year. Kyrie gone, this, that, and the third. They've got some picks back, but they don't own any of their own for quite the foreseeable future. They traded them all to Houston for Harden a couple seasons back. Eddie, what's your thoughts on the team as a whole before you jump into what you're going to do with them?
Well, the Nets, to me, they're a team that, they basically swung for the fences in free agency a few years ago, and they missed. They missed completely. I've never seen a team, get in three superstars, not let alone two. They got in three superstar players here, and they basically things couldn't have gotten any worse than they got in Brooklyn from 2019 on. They won, one playoff series. They're just, they're just a mess.
They got swept last year.
They got swept last year.
KD available. So,
yeah. To me, the biggest mistake the Nets made was not trading away Kyrie and KD last summer. That was a time. Let's be honest. Looking back at it, that was a time to do it, man. They had, KD asked for a trade. It was all out there. That was the time to blow that thing up because at least this year they could have at least, been in the tank and they could have got a chance at, Scoot Henderson or Victor Wembanyama. They could have been in the process of, fast tracking a rebuild. But, they chose to hang on to the guys. I get it, but that was a big, big mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, look, they got some nice pieces back in Bridges, obviously, and Cam Johnson, don't get me wrong, but they've still got Ben Simmons on the books. They've Cam Thomas had 7 minutes and 2 DNPs in the last 3 games. This is a guy that was scored 40 in 3 games straight for them when the first outgoings happened of Kyrie and KD. So interesting situation. All right, so Eddie, that leads me to the question: are you going to fix or are you going to power up the Nets?
Smitty, I am going to fix the Brooklyn Nets, okay? All right, so let me get into it. So what we're going to do here is basically I am going to do first things first. I am firing Sean Marks, Smitty. Dude, this guy has gone on. He's been here long enough, okay? He had the chance with KD, Kyrie, James Harden. He had the chance with 3 superstars to build a super team. He had a chance to build around that. He failed miserably. Okay. And then after that, not only does he do that, he goes out and trades James Harden for Ben Simmons. Dude, what are you thinking, bro? What are you thinking? You cannot do that. I understand, James Harden has, you could say whatever you want about James Harden. But if you go out and trade James Harden for Ben Simmons right then and there, I'm going to fire you. I know he got some picks back in that deal. I get that. But if you're trading for Ben Simmons, you automatically need to be fired. So the first thing I'm doing, I'm firing Sean Marks. All right. If I could, I'd sell the team and get a new owner and get rid of Joe Tsai too. All right. But that's a story for another day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire Sean Marks, and I am going to hire Elton Brand as my president of basketball operations. I'm going to bring in Elton, and I'm going to give him the title of president of basketball operations, and I'm going to entrust him, and I'm going to hire Austin Ainge as my GM. He's going to work directly under Elton Brand, okay? And he's going to be my GM. Listen, I know I can't get Danny Ainge, so I'm going to get the closest thing to him, and that's his son, Austin Ainge, all right? So I'm going to hire them, and I'm going to give them the task of basically rebuilding this team. But I have one order for them, okay, Smitty? One order. The first order is you got to trade Ben Simmons. I don't care. Whatever you got to do, my order to Elton Brand and Austin Ainge is, listen, you got to trade Ben Simmons, and I want to get rid of him to one of the 8 teams this summer with salary cap space. All right? If they have to attach draft capital, so be it. I want Ben Simmons off the books of the Brooklyn Nets. I can't have him. So that's what I'm going to do. He's either going to go to Houston, San Antonio. It's all the horrible teams. Utah, Charlotte, Orlando. OKC. I'm reading off. Detroit, Indiana. Those are the 8 teams with salary cap space. Those teams aren't attracting any free agents. So I'm going to pay them with draft capital to get rid of Ben Simmons, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, listen, Elton Brand and Austin Ainge, this is your team. You see fit to do what you can, because I trust those guys. They're basketball guys. They've been in the position for a long time. I think they have great basketball minds, and I trust them. So I'm not going to tell them, who to trade and this and that and the other. Listen, the Nets have 10 first-round picks from now until 2029. They're not the greatest picks in the world, obviously, like you said, because Houston has some of those picks with swaps, and some of those picks belong to the Phoenix Suns. Well, they belong to the Nets now, but they're the Phoenix Suns picks. So I'm going to tell them to go out. I'm going to tell them to listen. I want them to keep Mikal Bridges. Okay, you're going to keep him. I want to re-sign I want him to re-sign Cameron Johnson. All right. I'm also going to keep Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton. So those are the 4 guys I'm going to keep. Everybody else, I don't care what happens. Dinwiddie, he could go. All these guys could go, as far as I'm concerned. They could trade them for draft capital. And I want, Elton Brand and Austin Ainge I want them to put their, blueprint on the team as they see fit. And I want them to get us some draft capital and do what they got to do. And Smitty, I looked at the books, right? If the Nets trade Ben Simmons, right, and they just keep the team as it is. So I know Cameron Johnson, he's going to be up for an extension this summer. He already turned down 4 years. I think it was $72 million with the Suns. So I want him to obviously re-sign. So he's going to probably get about $20 million. But before that happens, the Nets are only at about $105 million in team salary. The salary cap is 135. So the Nets have a chance if they don't do anything. If they just sit tight and they trade Ben Simmons, like I say, they're one of the teams with salary caps. They have a chance to go out free agency and add somebody. Now, I'm not saying that the free agent class isn't anything special, but maybe you go out and add somebody small. Maybe it's listen. There's plenty of guys you could go after, but I would just say go out, get rid of Ben Simmons, and then you get a chance in free agency and do your thing. Whether it's Jordan Clarkson or just a small move, something like that. And then I trust Elton Brand and Danny Ainge to do their thing. That's what I'm doing. So that's how I'm fixing the Brooklyn Nets, Smitty.
Wow. Of course, as always, man, appreciate the work that you put in, Eddie, on that one. Now, I know you've got a bit of a hard on per se for the Brooklyn Nets and obviously their situation there. It doesn't have anything to do with being a Knicks fan, guys, by the way, just so you know. it's got nothing to do with that. It's just, Eddie watches and monitors this situation closely, and it's been a complete, for lack of a better word, balls up. They've just completely ruined what they had. They went all in on some guys that realistically, I mean, they didn't really fit the way that I never thought of. Put it this way, I never thought of Kyrie and KD as being people that would survive in New York. Even though they were on the Nets and not the Knicks, who probably cop a lot more heat. I just never thought that they would survive. So I mean, I appreciate, as always, the work that you put in, Eddie. There, a lot of deep thought and a lot of insight as to what could happen to fix the Nets. And I think, look, I'm going to lead into mine, Eddie, unless you got something else you wanted to add there.
No, I'll just say, listen, it's not all doom and gloom for the Nets. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got Mikal Bridges, they got Cameron Johnson. Those two guys right there, I mean, they're pieces for the future. Whatever they're going to do, those two guys, just keeping them, even Cam Thomas, I know, some people were saying, he could be something, but he doesn't make any money. He makes like $2 million. So they have some pieces. They just got to be patient. And if they build smart, they could target in a couple of years, 2025, that free agent class is loaded. If they keep the salaries low, brother, they got a chance to do this. And then, you get all these draft picks. That's how you rebuild the team, man. Young assets, good salary structure. And, you just build for the future, especially with guys like, Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson, man.
No doubt, man. I couldn't agree more. You've actually echoed a lot of what I said. So, before we lead into what I would do with this team, I'm not going to go into as deep on the Nets because I knew Eddie would do this. So, and which is great, man. This is what makes this so good, is because, I know this guy does the work, and there's so much that, we both agree on in terms of this. But what I would do with the Nets is I'm going to fix them. Okay. And I'm going to send them straight to Seattle.
Your bias isn't coming out on this at all, Smitty.
No, there's no bias here. But honestly, man, look, I don't even think New Jersey wants this team at the minute. They're not even putting a bid in. But you know what? Seattle does want a team, man. Seattle wants a basketball team back, and I wouldn't mind if they went back, and even if they were to move, let's say they just completely, snapped the fingers, the old Thanos, and made them disappear into thin air, and we just started it. We needed a 30th team again, and we went into Seattle and rebirthed the Seattle Sonics franchise from the ashes. That would have been, that would be great. But look, this is honestly, and look, put all my bias aside.
Super
Nets. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing for this team to be moved. And honestly, get a fresh start. And especially if they were to move this team and put them somewhere else. I mean, it's either Seattle or it's New Jersey. Like you said, they need to get Ben Simmons off the books. Mikal Bridges, great piece. Cam Johnson, great piece for the future. They're guys that people want to come and play with. But Kevin Durant said, remember when he said Knicks aren't the cool thing right now? Sorry, buddy. The Nets aren't the cool thing right now, and they never were, and they never will be. They're not even has been. There never was. So, yeah, I mean, look, man, like you said, Sean Marks, I think they need to move on from Sean Marks, personally. That's got nothing to do with me being an Australian either, and him being a New Zealander and our age-old rivalry. Put that aside. But look, the Ben Simmons thing is horrible. I don't know if I would keep Cam Thomas. I would definitely keep, though. I would keep Claxton. I would definitely be keeping, obviously, Cam Johnson and Bridges. And those are the three that I would build around. Everyone else for me is expendable and can go. So, that's where I would start, and I would move forward from. But look, Eddie, we joke and such, but it wouldn't honestly wouldn't be a bad thing for them to go, elsewhere. Like you said, you rattled off a lot of what I was thinking, so I'm not going to rehash that. They definitely need some shake up. I think Sean Marks has to go along with Ben Simmons. That's the two biggest things. Even if we don't move them, and all jokes aside and such, let's get rid of those two and try and fix this team from the head down. Because as they say, the fish rots from the head. So that's the way I'm looking at this team. It's just nothing's worked out, man. And like they picked the wrong choice when they picked Steve Nash. Then Jacques Vaughn's a great choice, but it's just been such a tumultuous tenure over the last 3 or 4 years, and they need to bounce back from that. So that's where I'm at. But look, Eddie, excuse me, guys. We've got a lot of people in the chat right now. I just wanted to give a shout out to them at the same time. And Sunil says KD is a native Texan. He got eaten alive because he didn't have any New York aura about him, and that goes back to what I said at the start. I didn't feel that they ever sort of fit the New York, the media and all that stuff. So, it
was just a bad marriage, man.
Burn it down, man. Just burn the Barclays Center down. As long as there's no one in it, of course, guys, relax. No one in it, and no one in the surrounding area. Give the FDNY something to do. And just make it a little bit easier to, I'm assuming the building's built from the same thing that, Kevin Durant's integrity is built from. So, which is tissue paper. But look, let's go to the next one, Eddie. That's obviously been the Nets, and that's what we would do with them. Our next one is the Minnesota Timberwolves, guys. The Minnesota Timberwolves. This team's impressing me at the minute, Eddie. I actually pegged Chris Finch, the new coach, to be the I picked Chris Finch to be coach of the year when all the off-season moves happened. I thought they would be doing a lot better than they are, but they have started to turn it around. Getting rid of D'Lo, I think, was a fantastic move, and I just think this franchise is in good hands with Anthony Edwards as the centerpiece there. Obviously, they've had their ups and downs, and my biggest thing with them is having Rudy Gobert on the books. But other than that, man, I think they're in a fairly good position. They've got some great players, but without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into it. And with the Wolves, what I'm going to do, Eddie, is I'm going to power them up because as we saw before, man, in the in the standings, they're obviously doing fairly well. And who I'm going to power them up with is Brandon Ingram. Man. Yeah, Brandon Ingram. Look, all right, I know he's been injured and all that sort of stuff. So, this is where we get a little bit fun with this, guys, and we put aside. Because if Brandon Ingram's healthy, he's a good player. Really good player, right?
Very good.
Fantastic. And I don't see how he doesn't fit that team, Eddie. You bring him in, and look, let's say maybe outgoing is, maybe a Karl Anthony Towns or Gobert. I would probably actually get rid of Karl Anthony Towns at first because that money's horrible. He's injury prone. Gobert needs less of the ball and is more of a defender. It would free up the ball for Ingram. You've got Jaden McDaniels, fantastic player, fantastic defender, and Anthony Edwards, just a superstar in the making. I think in a few years' time, at the rate he's going, we may very well see him as a top 10 player in the league, if not top 15 at that worst case. So, I mean, look, this team is tried to skip some steps. The Minnesota Timberwolves definitely tried to skip some steps, Eddie, by going and acquiring who they acquired. But when they got back Mike Conley after the outgoing of D'Angelo Russell and such, I think they did well. I think that was reprise from getting rid of Vanderbilt and Beasley because I thought those were two damaging outgoing pieces for sure. So I like what I see from him. I think Brandon Ingram comes in, a healthy Brandon Ingram, and that's a perfect second piece and second option to Anthony Edwards because Brandon Ingram has no problems playing off ball. That's why he is likened to a Kevin Durant type player. Is he Kevin Durant? No, but a type player, absolutely. So I don't see why this wouldn't propel them, especially if they could, in a hypothetical world, if they could just inject this guy into the team now, a healthy Brandon Ingram, that would take them and give them a bit of a playoff push, I think. So that's sort of where I see the things for the Timberwolves, Eddie. I don't think they need a lot to go right, even in the offseason. And going forward, Brandon Ingram would be a great piece.
Hey, let me ask you this, Smitty. If they had Brandon Ingram, how far do you think the Timberwolves can go? Like, as is, like, you inject Brandon Ingram onto this team.
So a healthy Brandon Ingram?
What do you see that the ceiling is on them?
Yeah, all right, so let's talk hypothetically. We say if I could right now bring in a healthy Brandon Ingram, and with where they're sitting in the West right now, I don't see why they couldn't possibly push up and finish top four, and maybe make a second round and make a real noise in the second round. That's why I say even if it would be beneficial for next year. So if you could inject him hypothetically now, healthy, he stays healthy going into next year, this is a team that I think would be very competitive, especially with Mike Conley still being able to do what he can do at his age. So I would say 4th seed this year. I don't see why they couldn't be a pure danger in the West if they added a Brandon Ingram type.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it would be a different ball game had he, had they have one more talent on the team. So yeah.
And I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, I think when you bring him back, it just makes a mess with Gobert, unfortunately. And I think as well, if we step away from hypothetical Eddie and we were to move into what you could outgoing, I think Cat for Ingram would be a fair sort of deal. And I think it would.
You think they do it though? You think the Pelicans would say okay to that?
Well, I sort of think of it and I go, well, I mean, look, it's much of a muchness, right? In terms of both are a little bit injury prone. I think Cat. I don't think. Look, I'm not going to suggest what they would think, but I think in terms of value, I think they're about the same value, and I would absolutely see a world where getting rid of Cat would be better than Gobert. Obviously, as well, Cat's more valuable than Gobert on outgoing. And again, I come back to the fact of Gobert as a rim protector and not having to try and score. Fantastic. There you
Ingram and Edwards would be scary for teams. That's what Phil says. Damn right they would.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Eddie, I'm not going to go too much more into it. That's, just a power up for a team right now that's starting to turn it around. That should have had a better season. They should have had a better season than what they did. But I think, I would Karl Anthony Towns, and I would be trying to go after Brandon Ingram if I was the Minnesota Timberwolves.
All right. So we're gonna get to what I'm gonna do now.
Yeah, I mean, look, Eddie, what do you want to do with the Minnesota Timberwolves? You want to power them up? Well, you want to fix them?
I just full disclosure here. I had a little fun with this. Okay, this is just a hypothetical, but I'm gonna power the Timberwolves up too. Okay, I'm gonna pick. Well, here we go.
Who are you picking, Eddie?
I'm picking LeBron James, bro. All right. I'm getting a healthy LeBron James on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And my whole goal in doing this is basically LeBron is going to come to the Timberwolves and I'm going to have him basically manage Anthony Edwards and be a full mentor. And he's going to teach Anthony Edwards everything he knows, not only about winning, but about competing, about, how to play in the playoffs, the whole nine. He is going to enlighten Anthony Edwards. And by the time LeBron hangs it up, Anthony Edwards is going to go from, what is he now? A top, 20 player, something like that, to he's going to be one of the top players in the NBA. That's how much of an impact LeBron James is going to have.
A question here for you, Eddie. Sorry to interrupt you. It's a nil post and it's a great question. Is Bronny also in tow with Papa LBJ?
Bronny is also allowed to come to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're a pair. They come together. Bronny's going to come too. And, you're just going to see great things. But basically, listen, I had to have a little fun here. Look, of course. LeBron, and my second guy is Malcolm Brogdon, all right? He's going to be the guy on my bench, okay? So he's going to be the veteran that's going to come off the bench, and he's going to make the Timberwolves, I hate to say it, he's going to make the Timberwolves great, okay? They need another backup point guard. This guy's going to come here. He's a professional. The guy could score, could shoot the three. Yeah, you have LeBron and Malcolm Brogdon, bro. This is going to be trouble for the league. That's a lot of trouble, bro.
That would be, and look, I like the Malcolm Brogdon one almost more than I like the LeBron, but only because it's part of the package, right? I mean, you get the LeBron and then you get the Brogdon. It'd be scary times. It'd be scary hours in Minnesota. Much like Phil said about Ingram and Edwards, I think this would be almost as scary. Especially, I rate Malcolm Brogdon. I think he's an underrated player by a lot of people, and then I think there's a reason why. A lot of teams.
Well, like just to be serious for a second, Smitty. Like, I just look at the Timberwolves. Like they're like this Jekyll and Hyde team. They kind of need like two guys that can come in and just mentor and right the ship. Like if you as much as you want to talk about LeBron or even Malcolm Brogdon, these are two pros. They're pros, and they come there and they basically they're going to change the whole franchise, bro. They're going to basically get the team on track. And these young guys are going to grow dramatically through them. So it's a little fun, bro. I just said to have fun with it. So those are my two guys. I'm going to power them up. And listen, to me, it's all about Anthony Edwards. You're bringing in, LeBron and Malcolm Brogdon. It's all about making, Anthony Edwards into this, master. He's going to come into he's going to come to his full potential. He's going to be an animal. So That's just what I want to see. I want to see Edwards be great because obviously, like you said the last show, he has the potential to be a top 5 player in this league. You put somebody like LeBron around him, dude, he's gonna be he might be one of the best players in the league in a couple of years.
Right.
So that was my thinking behind it.
I'll ask you the same question you asked me. If you could inject these guys in right now, and let's say, hypothetically in a perfect world, healthy LeBron, fully healthy Brogdon, and where they're at right now, obviously, but I want to give you one caveat. Karl Anthony Towns is either not there or he's benched for the rest of the season because of this injury. How far do they go?
They don't need Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns. LeBron, Brogdon, Western Conference Finals.
Whoa, there we go. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that's and a question. Anthony Edwards from Top Gun or the NBA? I'm gonna go with the NBA version all day. Sorry, Sunil, NBA version for me. Western Conference Finals. That would be interesting to see. I'd like to see the Timberwolves do well, man. I know that they're a franchise that gets shit on a little bit and what have you because they're in the boonies and it's freezing cold and it's pretty much hockey town and all that sort of stuff, right? And Vikings town. But it's good to see people go there. Like when, remember back in the day when KG was there and won MVP, it's a shame that, they never got to keep Marbury and all that sort of stuff because this is a team that's had some good players come and go that possibly could have won a championship by now had they maybe retained Stephon Marbury and back in that era. And,
Sprewell.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, Sprewell was starting to really become an issue.
But he's still pretty good. Then he turned down that big money too.
Yeah, and then he got that when he's saying something about he needs to feed his family, right? And wild money like it's not enough. Funny stuff. But look, Eddie, that's been the Timberwolves. Do you want to jump into the next team here? We've got a few teams under our belt here for you guys, and we're enjoying this, man. I hope you guys are. Again, shout out to the chat, man. And then obviously we're gonna have questions in the chat. So, who do you think powered up the Timberwolves better? Was it myself or was it my co-host Eddie? Let us know in the chat. And tell us what you think, and as well, let us know on the other one if you caught it. Who do you think fixed up the Nets better? Was it me or Eddie? I
had more fun with it than you, so let's to be fair, I was like a comic book when picking that, so you were much more serious about it than I was. So
yeah, no doubt. Hey, and I mean, look, this is all in good fun, right? I mean, we're here to have some fun and get the people engaged too that are listening. We appreciate all you guys and again, let us know. There you go. Sunil says Smitty for the Nets. Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people would like to see them go straight to the West Coast, right?
Eddie got this because he
Eddie got it right because he brought the extra player. I agree, man. Eddie did well bringing that extra player. Definitely, man. That's a great move. Look, let's jump to the next team, Eddie, man. Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks. What can we say about this team? Tumultuous. They traded, I think it was three first-round picks for
2 unprotected and 1 protected.
There you
and
go.
Danilo Gallinari.
For DeJounte Murray, right? Murray. Yeah, and is his contract expiring this year? End of this season?
No, he's expiring next year, but he's only making $16 million.
Yeah, so, right. Okay, so we obviously had our reservations. Anyone that sort of follows the league and follows basketball sort of had their reservations about whether this works. The pairing of DeJounte Murray and Trae Young both being ball dominant guards. Now it's been very tumultuous. Trae Young's looking a little bit like a coach killer. I think they're onto their 3rd coach now since in his tenure, right? Yeah, they're onto their 3rd coach. The last one, it was open that they had issues between Trae Young and the coach in Nate McMillan. Now, look. This is a franchise, Eddie, that's in big trouble. They went to the conference finals, not but 2 seasons ago, right? Obviously, the COVID season or the shortened season. It seems like that was an aberration. It seems that was very much an aberration. They've completely ostracized John Collins since he turned down that $90 million a few years back. He thought he could play better, and then they've ostracized him since. It's an oddly constructed team now. It's starting to look, it just doesn't seem like a lot of these people in this team would be chummy with each other, and the chemistry isn't there. Their best games are unbelievable, but their worst are absolutely, Bush League. They're Bush League. third coach. Who does he think he is? Latrell Sprewell? Did he choke
Yeah.
anyone yet? Well, I don't think he needs to choke anyone. I think just looking at Trae Young might make some people feel a certain way, and the way he carries himself. But Eddie, look, man, give us your opening thoughts about the Atlanta Hawks before we go into what we're going to do.
I mean, the Atlanta Hawks, to me, they're just a team, that's been on the decline ever since the COVID season. Like you said, I'm just going to reiterate, your points. I mean, they peaked that season. What did they get to the Eastern Conference Finals? And it's been downhill ever since. They've been, re-signing guys, the trade for DeJounte Murray, nothing seemed to work. They bring in, all these coaches, and it's just a team that's just in, they're just, nothing seems to work and nothing seems to fit. So it's a mess. It's a mess in Atlanta. It's a mess.
Certainly is. All right, so Eddie, look, we won't rattle on any more about them. We'll just jump straight into what we would do with them. And Eddie, you'll go first on this one. So what do you want to do with the Atlanta Hawks? Do you want to fix them or do you want to power them up?
I am going to fix them, Smitty. I'm going to fix them. Okay. I am going full Utah Jazz, Danny Ainge on this one. I am going to blow this whole thing up, Smitty. Okay? I'm blowing it up. I'm trading Trae Young. Okay? I want a Donovan Mitchell package in return for him. So that means 3 unprotected firsts, 2 swaps, and young talent. All right? That's for Donovan. Then I'm going to trade John Collins. I'm giving him to one of those 8 teams I mentioned before with salary cap space. Maybe one of those teams will take a flyer on him with that contract. I know in the future it's not going to look too bad, but it's not the greatest contract in the world. So I am literally wiping the books clean on the Hawks, man. I'm getting rid of all of them. I'm going to get rid of DeJounte Murray. I'm going to trade him for either, a young piece. I'm going to look to get it, draft picks. I want at least 2 first-round draft picks in return because that's what I traded for him. The Atlanta Hawks, they're a team that only has 5 first-round picks over the next 5 years. And I think they have a swap, too. So by blowing this, they have to blow it up. They got no choice. All right? They got no picks. They got a team that doesn't work. This team's garbage. All right? You got a couple of young players. You got Sadiq Bey. I'll keep him. I'll keep the DeAndre Hunter because he's okay. And I think he's 25. But the rest of these dudes are going. Clint Capella, I think he's going to make $20 million or something like that next year. He's out of here. He's getting lost. So I'm going to blow up the whole entire team, keep those 2 guys, and basically I want to build through the draft. Okay, I know it's silly, but I think that's what they should do. I think they should just blow the whole thing up, get as many draft picks in return as possible, get some young talent. I'm me, Smitty. I get a little crazy with these trades, and I was thinking last time, I'm like, who can I trade these guys for? Who can I trade them? But I didn't want to go out and do all that. But one guy came to mind. DeJounte Murray, he's only making like $16 million. And one of the guys that came to mind was LaMelo Ball. And I'm thinking maybe I could swap out DeJounte Murray for LaMelo Ball. I mean, DeJounte Murray's making like $16 million next year. LaMelo Ball's making probably about half of that. I think that's a deal that could possibly get done. So that might be part of the rebuild. I might get, if I could flip DeJounte Murray for LaMelo Ball, I'm going to start over with Ball and all these young guys and a shitload of draft picks, and I'm going to build through the draft, and that's it. So Sunil wants to send Atlanta to Maine. I don't blame him, but yes, Smitty, that's what I'm going to do, bro. I'm going to fix them. I'm going to blow the whole thing up. I'm going to get as many draft picks as possible and basically just build through the draft and just go like that and then move forward, bro.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Look, I think we're very much on the same page here, so I'm just going to jump into it. I would fix the Atlanta Hawks, and my biggest thing is I'm sending that guy there on the screen packing. See that? See the luggage? See the plane? Get the hell out of here! Get the hell out of here! I would. That's the main thing I would work with. I would move him. I would probably look to maybe try and extend DeJounte Murray. Granted, I could find a team with interest, right? And I would try and get rid of him too. I'm with you, Eddie. I'm 100% with you. That guy can pack his bags on the screen, Trae Young, because he is starting to seem to me like he's a serious problem there. And I don't think he's going to take this team any further than he's taken them as the conference finals that year. I think he needs to I think he needs to be humbled by a little bit by a trade. I'm not saying he's not talented, guys, so please don't take it that way. For anyone that wants to come at me, I just think that this kid needs a little bit of humble pie, and that's going to come in the shape of see you later. We don't care what you bring. At this point, your value is almost nil to us. It's almost nil because how difficult you are, and if we keep showing we have faith in you, all that does is builds trust and confidence in these players. And no matter how difficult they are, at some point you have to go snip, cut the umbilical cord, see you later. You're out of here. So I would definitely start it with getting rid of Young. I would look to try and extend DeJounte Murray again. Granted, I could find a team that was interested in him and maybe work it so that it works with them. And then, like you said, I'm either going to try and get both of these guys gone and another star in to maybe skip some steps, or I'm going to look to get some draft capital. But I mean, with that, I'd probably get rid of John Collins too. I know he's not going to fetch you much right now. They haven't done themselves any favors, but I mean, you have to, I think, get rid of those three if you're going to move forward. Clint Capella is another one that actually, I think Clint Capella might actually fetch you some money. They've got some good guys. They've got AJ Griffin. They've got they've obviously got Hunter, as you said. I would probably even try and get rid of Bogdanovic. While his value's high,
he's gone anyway. He's a free agent.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe let him go, move on from all those guys, and I'd really look to start to build a new core, whether that's by going and trading a Trae Young for someone that a team that's interested. It's an interesting situation. It's a very interesting situation because he still does have value, but I think this is almost like I think this is a case, Eddie, of like Randall in New York, and we can speak on this as Knicks fans, right? I think his value right now, unfortunately, though, is highest to Atlanta, or seemingly. But I still think if you find the right fit, a team out there, and if you're willing to take a little bit of an L on him, it's the right move to get rid of at least Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I could even see a world where they kept DeJounte and tried to put pieces around him. Is he going to take you to the promised land? Probably not. But does he maybe turn Atlanta into an attractive destination in some way or another if he's the main guy? Who knows? There is possibilities there, but it definitely starts with getting rid of this guy.
Do you think DeJounte Murray's a mature guy? Because I know there's a lot of talk around the league that he's like an immature player. I know a lot of Spurs fans last year were like, I couldn't believe it. They were like, on the Twitter spaces, they're like, get rid of this dude. He's immature. So I'm going to ask you.
I don't know if you saw in the summer when he was doing all the lead up to. Remember, he was doing all that, going wild in the pro-ams and all that sort of stuff. He was doing some pretty immature stuff. I'm looking for the word here. It's an odd situation because I've seen DeJounte write some stuff and talk really maturely, and it seems like he wants to be a mature guy. But then I also see where it might be immaturity. And as Phil says, to Eddie's point, 16 million is not a ton for a player. I find another young piece and a vet who can help him with his immaturity. I don't even know if it's immaturity. I think it might just be overconfidence. And this is a guy that, remember, he got let go from the shackles of, the perceivable shackles of, Greg Popovich, because we know anyone that sort of plays in San Antonio has to be prepared to sort of sacrifice their game, right? Under Greg. And I remember Kawhi talking about DeJounte and how when he got there, he said to him, play defense first. You play defense, then you can get your minutes. And once you get those minutes, that's when you can look to score. And now if he's immature, does he do that? Do you know what I mean? He took that challenge on. He welcomed it. He built his value up in San Antonio to the point where a team wanted him. So I don't know if it's immaturity. I think it's just lack of judgment and sometimes overconfidence. And I could see a world too where they keep him and like Phil said, and that's what I was alluding to, was you get another young piece or a vet from the outgoing of Trae Young and a couple other pieces, and you bring in someone that you can put around him immediately, or maybe he makes it attractive for after you extend him, and then maybe he turns it into a team that people want to come to. So that's how I see that.
Next, back to reality. We got a score check.
Yeah, can we get a score
check from the chat? Maybe
we're getting blown out, but
Sabonis is probably, and Fox are probably lighting us up.
Yeah, so look, let's get back to the task at hand, Eddie, and obviously get our mind off those lowly those Knicks of ours. The next team we're going to go into, Eddie, and you give your opening thoughts on this, and then I'll give mine because I'll roll straight into what I'm going to do with this team first. It's Golden State Warriors. Go ahead, Eddie, and tell us where you see the Golden State Warriors.
So Golden State, am I going to go right into it, or am I just giving some thoughts?
No. Well, you just give your opening takes on the team as a whole, then I'll do mine, and I'm going to take this one away.
Listen, Golden State, we obviously know they won the championship last year. They're basically another team, Jekyll and Hyde. On the road, they're one team. They're awful. They're just awful, and they're complete garbage. I think they're 7-25. I think it was. I think they are on the road, and then at home, they're the complete opposite. I think it's 25 or something and 7, something along those lines. So they are the most Jekyll and Hyde team ever. I think they're the top offense, top defense at home, but on the road they're the bottom of everything. So, you watched the game the other night against who was it? OKC, and Steve Kerr came out. And what was the word he used to say? I think he said something. The first half was we were middling or something along those lines. I don't know if you saw it, but Draymond Green basically pouted on the court. It was a mess. And again, you saw tonight they lost now to the Memphis Grizzlies. There was a lot of debate between there's a lot of back and forth between Draymond and Brooks, and they going back and forth, and they went out and lost. That was in tonight. For me to take Golden State seriously, I got to start seeing them win on the road, man. They got to start putting this together. They could blame, we lost, GP Jr. all they want. We lost him. We have injuries, blah, blah, blah. They could use all the excuses in the world, but at some point in time, they got to get it together because they're the defending, NBA champions. And Steve Kerr and Kenny Atkinson, they've had their hands full. There's a clip going around of Kenny Atkinson basically throwing, he's the, like the defensive coordinator over there. He basically threw down his papers after, them playing defense the other night in OKC. So they're a mess. The Golden State Warriors are a mess right now. And really, they're just a mess on the road. They just have to fix that problem. And once they fix it, they could go and make a run. But they got to start proving they can win, Smitty, don't you think?
I agree. I mean, look, they've climbed up in the standings. Granted, and there's an old saying I like. When it rains, the rain doesn't just fall on one roof. So it's not just one person that they've had issues with this year in terms of maybe Curry being injured, but Draymond Green's on the decline. His attitude at times can seem very poor. Klay Thompson's still trying to find a groove, and is asking for time to be, given time to work his way back. Starting to wonder, his best games are good, but I'm with Charles Barkley on this one. I don't think he's going to get back to the player he was before those injuries. I think his best is still fantastic. Don't get me wrong; he's had some big games, but he continues to show that it's not every night he can bring it anymore. And obviously, granted, Curry's out again, and for the second time this season with another injury, and that's their main piece.
He went out again after tonight.
Sorry,
he went out again after tonight. He got hurt tonight.
No. I meant to say sorry. Retrospectively, before.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Before this game, he's been out with injuries and such. Curry being the main piece. But look, as you pointed to, Kenny Atkinson, just throwing down the papers. The defense has been porous, which is why they probably should never have gotten rid of Gary Payton Jr. in the second in the first instance. Now they've gone and got him back, but he's injured. He's not the same guy as well. This is a poor season for its team that won the championship last year. So, look, I'm just going to jump into it from here. I'll take this one away for Golden State Warriors. I'm gonna fix them. Maybe not for this year, but I'm gonna power them up. Right, my bad, my mistake. I'm going to power them up, and I'm going to give them Jaren Jackson Jr.
Oh,
right, Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, Eddie, this speaks exactly to what you were talking about. This fixes the defensive issues. This is one of the best rim protectors in the league who can also get out and defend at the perimeter. Jaren Jackson Jr. is having a fantastic year. He made All-Star. He leads the league in blocks per game. He is just a defensive anchor for Memphis Grizzlies. He's finally healthy and staying healthy. Knock on wood. As Jigga said, Super Saiyan Jackson, he's leveling up there. He's getting his Dragon Ball Z on. I think this guy fixes a lot of problems, man. And I think this with a move like this, not only does this power them up for this season, if I could inject him right now, this pushes them and propels them for years to come. For the whatever's left in Curry and Klay Thompson, because I'm starting to look to the point where do these guys maybe start to move on Draymond Green and maybe move him into even if you moved him into a bench role, right? Moved him into a bench role where he's more he's more there for his mind and his IQ, and he leads a bench unit and gets a bench unit sort of riding, because I want to see more of Kuminga. I want to see more of Kuminga for sure. And obviously they got, DiVincenzo, so they got some nice pieces. Plus Jaren Jackson Jr., another guy, a big man who can hit it from outside the 3-point line. Granted, he has his struggles a little bit in consistency, but man, when he's flaming the net, he's flaming the net, and he offers more in a lot more areas than Draymond Green in terms of scoring. And that's the issue. Is look, Draymond Green's great. He sees the game well. He passes it fairly well. His defense is good, but his inability or his refusal to score is almost Ben Simmons like. It's almost Ben Simmons like, and at some point it gets to the point where it's like, well, you've got to do more. The aim of this game is to put the ball in the basket, right? As more times than the opponent. So I just think Jaren Jackson, man, that you chuck him into this team. Not only would this push them for this year, but it takes them into the next season and beyond. I think Jaren Jackson Jr., man, that's the type of player they need to go after, and that's what I would do, man, to power this team up. He is a Steve Kerr type of player too. And Kenny Atkinson, I don't think he'd be throwing down any more papers anytime soon.
Thank you.
Salute to Frankie, man. What's up, bro? So, yeah, man, look, I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to go too much more into depth on that. I think that one speaks mostly for itself, man. Jaren Jackson Jr., just a fantastic defender and with ability to score and plenty left to give and learn.
Eddie,
and Frankie says Eddie with another immaculate joke. Unreal. But Eddie, man, that's me. I'm going to leave that one there. So now, Eddie, tell me, Eddie, what would you do with this Golden State Warriors team? Would you fix them? Or would you power them up?
All right, I'm going to power them up, Smitty. But all right, I'm going to power them up. I picked.
You don't sound too happy about this one.
I picked two players again. I just picked two players.
Oh, you're cheating again. You're cheating me again.
All right, we'll go with just the one guy first. I'm powering up. I'm putting Kristaps Porzingis into the Golden State lineup, man. He's having one of the best seasons of his career. All right, he's having the best season of his career. I'm going to put KP in that lineup, and I'm going to stack them out, and I'm going to make them into a true stretch 5 lineup. KP's going to take the load off of, Klay and Curry. And even Draymond, he's going to take the load off. He's going to do some scoring. He's going to hit the threes. He's going to do all those little things. Now, he's not JJJ, but he's another guy that, for me, he's just a power up. He comes to Golden State, and he just makes that team right because, they got to get back on track offensively. And I think not only does he help them offensively, but he helps them defensively too because he could rebound, he could block a little bit. And, he's having one of the best seasons of his career. So KP's going to be my guy. I love what he does on offense. And even this year on defense, he's doing much, much better. I think he's at a 2.8 in the defensive win share. So he'll be a good pickup for Golden State. He's my power up. And the second guy, I had to drop him in here. I had to drop him in here. Just for you. I'm dropping Kyle Kuzma. He's going to go right to the bench, and he is going to be instant offense for the Golden State Warriors. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to play stretch 5. He's going to go all over the place. They're going to turn Kuzma into a borderline Hall of Famer, bro. He's going to be just perfect for that team. And I purposely picked him, Smitty, because I know how much you love Kuzma. I had to pick him, so I picked Kuzma for you, bro.
I could imagine him being real happy being put on the bench with you, Eddie. Yeah, this jerk off's really going to enjoy going on the bench. Yeah, he's going to improve that 3-point shooting. What does he shoot? Like 32% on the season? Get him out of here.
Yeah, he'll go right to the hole.
You trying to ruin the Golden State Warriors by adding this guy?
The power, bro. They'll make him into the perfect bench player, bro. They'll be awesome with those two, bro.
Hey, man, look, I love the Porzingis pick, man. I think it's a fantastic pick. I am critical of him. I'm happy for what he does as long as he stays away from the Knicks. I actually saw a thing yesterday that that he is having the best season since his All-Star season. He's a lone All-Star season. So, props to him. And another guy, much like Jaren Jackson Jr., Porzingis is staying healthy. finally. That's a huge part, because it's not the talent that was ever in doubt. It was the availability. And as people say, availability is the best ability. So look, guys, in the chat as well, with all these, it's good fun. Give us your take. Who do you thought won? Of course, Eddie cheated again, used 2 players. I think he might be.
I picked Kuzma purposely just to get you going, but I purposely threw him in there for you, bro. I did that purposely. But KP was my guy.
Might be feeding Phil, or filling him and feeding notes under the table, because Phil says Eddie wins. I love adding the unicorn. So I'm a little bit sus there. I think you guys might be doing some stuff behind the scenes. But no, guys, of course, as always, give us your take as to who you thought had the better pick there. All jokes aside, the Kuzma edition is for a laugh for sure. But hey, we appreciate you guys coming and joining us. Let us know as well, if you could, guys, what you think of the segments. We always appreciate that, because we're constantly trying to give you fresh stuff. This one's called We Got the Power, and we can have some real fun with this one, Eddie. I've enjoyed this one. What about you?
Yeah, man, it was awesome, bro. I had that, I had some fun with it. Other teams I took a little bit more seriously, like the Nets and the Hawks. Like, I put much more, thought into it, and much more, and with the Timberwolves and the Warriors, it's just a little bit more fun, just picking names that, everybody knows, everybody can relate to. And just at the end of the day, all these hypotheticals, they're all just about having fun, man. Just get people talking, and that's it.
That's right. And I mean, look, Eddie, the one thing that you and I try to do when we prepare for this, just so you guys know, we have no idea what we're picking in terms of specifics. We for this one, we shared the teams, so we knew what teams we were working on, but we had no idea what we were doing in terms of powering up or fixing. We like to keep it, as fresh as we can, and a genuine reaction, guys. But look, I mean, this is fun, but we also try and stay, within a realm of where this could be possible in some way, shape, or form. But we like to have a bit of fun. Like for me, as much as it's fun, I would love to see the Brooklyn Nets get shipped out of Brooklyn and make it a one team city. Although I'm hearing now in the chat, Frankie says Knicks are getting smacked. By the way, they aren't flying under the radar anymore. Shame to see that, but Sacramento's been for those of you who know, they're playing Sacramento right now. Sacramento has been a absolute powerhouse this year. But look, if you guys could continually just when you guys that show up, we appreciate if you could continually just let us know in the chat what you liked or what you didn't like as well. Not just about who had the better take. We would appreciate that. But hey, look, we're gonna go to a quick commercial. And this one might be for you March Madness junkies. I want to let you guys know what Knights of Deegan are doing with the Deegan brackets. So check this out. There you go, guys. Knights of Deegan with the Deegan brackets. Download the Knights of Deegan app on iOS and Android and get involved in the best Web3 tournament, man. Pretty cool stuff for those of you March Madness junkies. Obviously, that is in full swing now, and we're heading towards that wild time of college basketball and such. And it's one of my favorite parts of the year. Even in the years where I don't get to necessarily keep up with college basketball, I always enjoy watching March Madness. So it looks like it's a really cool thing going on there with some really great ideas and create your own tournament, man. So March Madness fans, man, check that out. As again, that's on iOS and obviously the Google Play or Android store. Wherever you get your apps from, you will find them on there. They have it for both Android and Apple phones. So, hey, look, Eddie, man, this has been another great episode, but that's all we have time for today. I think we're going to get out of here and go and wallow in our pain of the Knicks getting smacked and maybe hope for and pray for a bit of a turnaround. But look, guys, appreciate you all for coming out. Again, everyone that contributed in the chat and continues to make this possible. KOD Media, Morning Brew Sports, Nick's Morning Brew, Yanks Morning Brew. Please check them all out on YouTube.
Yep.
We appreciate you all, and we can't wait to see you guys again, man. So with that said, that's a wrap, and salute to the chat, salute to the people watching.